Someone broke into my house and burnt it on fire. I've owned over 650 rental properties in the last decade, and only one house has ever burnt to the ground. In this video, I'm gonna be sharing that story and tell you about how that investment turned out for me. So make sure to stay until the end of the video so you know how you could protect yourself if your investment property or home ever burns down. All right, so the way that the story begins is we bought a rental property in Memphis, Tennessee. And typically when we buy rental properties in Memphis, Tennessee, we buy them for 60,000 bucks, renovate them for $20,000, $30,000. Then we sell them for 100, 110, 120,000 bucks. So that's the typical kind of deal range that we buy these rental properties in Memphis, Tennessee. My brother at the time was actually living in Memphis, Tennessee and managing this rental property. So he was managing all of our construction projects. Essentially, we would buy the house, renovate it, rent it out, and then sell them or refinance them, right, to add them to our own portfolio, sell them to other investors. My brother was living in Memphis, Tennessee, managing all the construction projects. We would have anything from like 3 to 15 construction projects going on at any given time. And we also had some apartment buildings that he was actually living in one of the apartment buildings and managing those apartment buildings as well. And for this property, we bought it $60,000. We started the construction. I think it was like a $20,000 or $30,000 construction. We started the construction. First part of construction is demolition, right? So your team goes in, they're gonna demo everything that they want to demo, that they want to replace, right? So they start demolishing, taking down the inside of the property. Typically you have a dumpster, right, that sits on the front of the property where they're gonna put all the stuff out. So as they're demoing, they'll actually take stuff from the property and put it into the dumpster, like the toilet, the cabinets, the countertops, all that kind of stuff is gonna go out into the dumpster. So they were doing that, just typical dumpster work, typical construction stuff, taking stuff, putting into the dumpster. But they only work from like 8 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m., right? From dawn till dusk. So that's kind of when they're working, when the construction guys are working, then they leave and then they come back the next day, right? So they're not there overnight. And the biggest thing for real estate investors, as you're renovating these properties, you don't want it to look like a job site. You don't want it to look like a place where someone can break in and they can have a good night's sleep, right? And sometimes you invest in neighborhoods that even are B and C class neighborhoods. If you don't know what that is, check out my channel. There's some other videos on that. But you sometimes invest in these B and C class neighborhoods and you still get broken into. Especially if somebody knows that that house is vacant, they can break into that property and just put a little tiny mattress or put a pillow down and just sleep, right? So they don't have to sleep outside in the cold, they can sleep in a warm-ish kind of house. And sometimes you still leave your HVAC on and furnace on so they can actually turn up the heat and live in one of your properties. And demo typically takes around 3 to 4 days. So they're doing demolition, right? They go back and forth, back and forth. My brother will go to the project every couple of days to check up on the project, make sure that everything's moving along smoothly, right? Demo is very inexpensive. So again, if the renovation is 20, 30,000 bucks, demo could be a couple $1,000s. So we bought the house for 60 grand, we're a couple $1,000s deep. And my brother goes to the rental property one day and he notices that somebody's there inside of the property sleeping. My brother goes in, tells the guy to leave, calls the cops, I believe, just to file a police report because somebody did break into our property, files a police report, the police come, right? They get the guy out of the property eventually. And then my brother's like, okay, cool. He secures the property. And then a couple days later, he goes back out to the property and he sees the same guy there. The same guy is inside of the house at this time. And he goes and talks to the guy again and says, hey man, like we told you to leave. We filed a police report already. You keep breaking into the same exact property. Again, because the guy knows it's vacant. Like we don't have somebody sleeping there guarding the house at nighttime. And a lot of people are like, oh, Antoine, go install cameras. I mean, you could install cameras, but the cameras aren't gonna really help. Somebody can just put a hood on, go into the property, and like that's kind of it. Like you can have the video footage and video evidence, but there's not much you can do if they just cover up their face. So it's pretty tough to actually catch somebody on the video footage breaking into the house and then actually like filing any kind of police report with that kind of information. So this is now the second time that my brother goes out to the property. First time he found him sleeping there. Second time he goes again, finds the same guy sleeping there, and he tells the guy to leave again, right? The guy leaves again and my brother's like, what the hell? Like this guy just keeps fucking breaking into the house. He again secures the property. We continue construction. So again, we haven't spent much money on construction at this point, still 5,000 bucks. A couple days later, my brother gets a call from the contractor saying, hey, Aiton, can you come out to this property? My brother goes out to the property, he looks at it and the house is completely gone. It's burnt. It's just the foundation of the property at this point. We had just finished demo, getting the property ready to start the construction. This guy's broken in 3 fucking times now. The third time he actually burned the property to the ground, and we think it was because he probably was like using drugs or something or smoking a cigarette, and he threw his cigarette and he burnt the house down. So absolutely insane. Again, I've bought 650 rental properties, multiple apartment buildings. This has never, ever happened, not even close. Like, I don't even think I've even had a fire in one of my properties or anything like that. Like, this was like the only fire I've ever had, and this fire burnt the property down to an absolute level, okay? And you may be asking, what the hell did you do at that point, right? And we were wondering the same thing because this has never happened to us before. So we started, this is the fun part. So we started reaching out to our insurance company and said, hey, the house burned down, it burnt to a crisp. We think somebody broke in. We don't think, we know somebody burnt in. Here's the multiple police reports that we have of somebody breaking in. We think that he broke into the property again. And this time he burnt the house to a crisp. So we reach out to the insurance company, we give them all these police reports and stuff like that, and they're like, okay, we need to send out an adjuster to the property to make sure that like it's not us burning the house down, and and kind of figure out how much money it would cost to rebuild, right? So typically when you get insurance policies, there's I think two different kind of ways that they do it. It's like the cost of the home, so how much you paid for the home, and then like a rebuilding insurance. So if we were to rebuild this home from scratch, how much would that cost? And so there's kind of two insurance policies that you can opt in for. One, in this instance, would be like 60,000 bucks because I bought it for that, versus rebuilding this house, which would be $200,000. Typically I get this insurance, and typically lenders are gonna require you to get this insurance anyways, like not just like insurance covering the cost, but actually insurance covering if you were to ever want to rebuild, or if something like devastating like this were to happen to the property, if you needed to rebuild it, how much would that cost? So luckily we got this insurance. And so what we did is we went back and forth with the insurance provider. This took months of time, like not fun months. And my money's sitting in it, right? Like our money's sitting in this property, just not making a return or anything like that. Insurance adjuster goes out, gives us a bid. Oh, this is gonna cost like 50,000 bucks to renovate. We're like, what? Like from who, from where? And so we take the bid, because the insurance adjuster sends you a thing like, oh, to replace this house and to rebuild it to its natural position or whatever, it's gonna cost $50,000. And we're like, it's not gonna cost 50,000 bucks. Nobody's gonna be able to rebuild a house for 50 grand. We go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Months later pass, after multiple conversations with the insurance provider, we got a check for 75,000 bucks. And we were like, all right, fine, let's just take the money. We get a check for $75,000. Again, I'm only in this thing for 65,000. So I literally made a profit. And this whole thing probably took like, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months. Because again, I bought the house. This whole house burned down just a couple weeks after owning it. Like the first month of owning it, we bought it for 60 grand. Renovation was only a couple thousand bucks at this point. So I'm all in for 65K. I get a check 6, 7 months later for 75,000 bucks. So I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, this is actually pretty sweet. And then I got to sell that property to somebody else who was gonna like build a home on it. So I actually got to sell that land, sold the land. I think I made another like 5 or 10,000 bucks with the land. So I made a profit of, I made 85,000 bucks on a $65,000 investment. Like that's pretty damn good for 6 or 7 months. So I think one of the biggest learning lessons with this is just don't cheap out on your insurance. I also think it shows that like all these fears you see online of like, oh, someone's gonna break in and they're gonna burn the house. Like it's happened 1 out of 650 rental properties. And I invest in B and C class neighborhoods as well. I'm not even in A class neighborhoods. B and C class neighborhoods, 1 out of 650 rental properties for me that has ever happened in. And the one time that my house did burn down, I actually made a great profit. Invested 65K, made 85K 6, 7 months later. It's an amazing return. And so with all that being said, I think a couple of the key takeaways are, number one, don't get cost insurance, get replacement value insurance. It's gonna help you make sure that if something ever does happen to your property that you are covered. Number two, I think this proves the point that don't worry about the little shit. Like, don't worry, my house is gonna flood, my house is gonna burn to the ground. Like, you have insurance, you're good, you're safe. The chances of this happening is in my case and with my data, right? 1 out of 650, maybe even 1 in 1,000, right? It's such a low percentage of homes that are gonna burn to the ground or have some sort of devastation happen to them. So keep that in mind as you are out there investing or even buying a home to live in. Like, the chances of your house burning down or getting broken into are very, very low, very slim. So don't worry about the little stuff. Again, make sure to protect yourself, but that's what insurance is for. If you ever have a fear that is keeping you up at night, just be like, I bet I can give some money to a company to protect me of this fear. And I guarantee you can find it. We had something with our current business and we're like, we're really worried about this. And it's like, okay, I wonder if there's insurance for that. And so we literally went and got an insurance policy, whatever, a couple $100 a month. Now I can sleep at night. So just think about that with your real estate business or your business in general and your life. What are some things that I can insure to make sure that I can go and sleep at night? If you want more crazy real estate stories like this, make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to book a call with us and learn how to invest in real estate, click the link down below in the description.